What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, taking a look at the Armytek Prime C1 Pro in the white light option, also available with a natural light option. Got mine through the Going Gear EDC Club subscription a few months back, but available for purchase for right around that $60 price point. Powered by an 18350 lithium-ion 900 milliamp hour battery. Durable flashlight, super feature rich with 11 different modes, has a maximum output of 1000 lumens on its brightest setting and a maximum runtime of 40 days on its dimmest setting. So really wide range there. Mentioned that durability, we have this aluminum body with this hard anodization, IP68 water and dust resistant, and rated for drops up to 10 meters, which is why I say it's pretty durable. Usually don't see that on flashlights in this class. You'll see 1 meter, 1.5 meters, sometimes up to 5 meters, but don't typically see 10-meter drop ratings. Now, I didn't test that because I wanted to have a working flashlight for this video, so kind of taking them at face value, but if accurate, incredibly durable there as well. That body is 2.64 inches long, about an inch in diameter. I think they said 0.96 inches in diameter, so just a hair under. Weighs about 2.5 ounces with that battery installed. Speaking of the battery, already mentioned 18350 lithium-ion battery. It is rechargeable without removing it from the body of this flashlight. Does come with a proprietary charging system, magnetic charging, which is nice. I'm not a huge fan of proprietary charging systems just because you have to keep track of this. If you lose it, they're not going to be able to find this cord at a regular store. You'll have to order it online, but latches on there really nicely. The first quirk of this flashlight, and there's a couple small quirks here, but this is the first, and that is that when you plug this into a USB or a power brick and then the magnet onto the end of that flashlight, nothing happens. It's gonna glow green as if it's fully charged, but in reality, it's not actually charging. You have to twist the tail cap about a quarter of the way before plugging it in, and then you'll see it change to that red, showing that it's charging, eventually the green. But if you just plug it in without twisting, nothing happens. I'm not sure why they went that route. It's not super intuitive. I'm someone who maybe reads the instructions to see the different modes, if that, and almost certainly I'm not going to be looking at the storage instructions or how to charge a flashlight because that's usually pretty self-explanatory. But in this case, I noticed it wasn't charging, had to go to the instruction manual, eventually figured out why that was, but not the biggest deal now that I know, but it's still kind of a pain. If my wife grabs this or if I lend this flashlight out and forget to mention it, it's not something you're just going to figure out on your own. No one thinks to quarter turn it and then plug it in. They're going to either plug it in, and if they notice it's not charging, they'll remove the tail cap entirely, maybe pull that battery out, but really not that intuitive to have to quarter turn it. So not a huge fan of that, but can live with it now that I know how it works. Now, in terms of the interface, I'd say it's relatively user-friendly in the general mode. So we have 11 modes. 6 of them are available in the general mode. The full 11 are only available in the advanced mode. The advanced mode's a little bit convoluted and complicated, another one of those weird quirks to get into it, and so we'll get to that in a moment. But let's go over the initial modes first. Should also mention it does come with a lanyard as well as a pocket clip. I had the pocket clip on for a little bit. It only goes on one direction here, but is a direction you can use to have it facing forward on your hat. It's got a pretty good retention. It's pretty long. It goes pretty much to the end of the flashlight, but I just preferred the form factor without it, so I ended up removing it. But into those different modes, all controlled with this big yellow button here, and it's not super easy to accidentally press that button, which is good because I don't believe this flashlight has a lockout mode, but you have a couple different settings. Like I said, 6 in total in your general mode, which is what you start out at. So to get into the firefly modes, you have to hold it. If you just single click, it's going to jump into your memory mode. But if you want those fireflies, you hold it for 2 seconds. The first one is incredibly dim. You can probably barely see it there on the palm of my hand. Only 0.15 lumens, but that'll last for 40 days. And I honestly feel like they only put this mode in so that they can advertise a 40-day runtime. I could live without it. I honestly think they should eliminate that, have one firefly mode, which would be this next one. If you hold that for, again, you'll cycle into the next mode, which is 2.5 lumens. Perfectly usable, still runs for 5 days, and this is the option I would go with. Now, there is actually a third firefly mode, but you can't get to it in the general mode. So we'll go through the general settings first. So we can either turn it off or just cycle through from here, but this will be our main one. So we have all three main options available in the general mode, so none of these are hidden in the advanced section. Main one is 40 lumens, 15 hours. Really nice blend of brightness and runtime. A lot more output than your Firefly mode. Going to be usable in most situations. Lights up a decent area and runs for 15 hours. So big fan of the 40 lumen mode. From there you can cycle up to our main 2, which is 100 lumens, 6 hours and 30 minutes. Still a nice runtime on that. Last main mode is main 3, 210 lumens for 2 hours and 35 minutes. From here we can double click to get into our turbo, which is a nice bright 350 lumens, hour and 35 minute runtime. If we turn it off and back on, it does have a memory mode, so if you leave it in turbo, that's what it's going to go to. If you cycle, it's going to cycle back to main 1, not your Firefly mode, so you do have to turn it off, hold it again to get back into your Firefly mode. But that is all of our settings in the general area. I think nice usable settings. One thing that's notably missing there is our Turbo 2, which is the 1000 lumens, and you do have to go into the advanced mode to get there. Wish that were in our general settings. For me, I think honestly, I probably would eliminate Firefly 1, just keep Firefly 2, and then replace Turbo 1 with Turbo 2, which is 1000 lumens, steps down to Turbo 1, 350 lumens after 2 minutes and 20 seconds anyway, so it feels a little bit redundant. But if you do want to get into those advanced settings, which honestly I'll probably never use again once I finish this video, I'm going to go into it just to show it, but I just prefer the general settings. I find this a little bit too much here, but turn it that same quarter turn that you turn for the charging, hold your button, turn it again, and now we're in our Firefly 2 mode. I actually accidentally turned it on there, but same thing here, we hold it to turn it into our Firefly mode. So we have 3 Fireflies now. The first one, which is again 0.15 lumens, the second, which is 2.5 lumens, and the third that is 8 lumens. This is one of those modes that why would I ever come all the way over to the advanced mode to get that 8 lumens? I'll just use the 2.5 lumens or the 40 lumen main mode, but it is there, 8 lumens, 2.2 days. Now we can turn it off. All of the rest are you get to by clicking multiple times. So 2 clicks for your main modes. And I'm not going to go through these again. They're the same exact main modes as your general, so there's nothing extra in the advanced setting. 3 clicks gets you into your turbo modes. And so we have our 350 lumens, but we also now, oh, that was 1000. We also now have the 1000 lumen option, which again, after 2 minutes, 20 seconds is gonna step back down to our 350 lumens. Now, in this advanced mode, anything that you leave it on, when you click it back on, it's gonna keep that memory. And so there's 11 settings, but you can only actually save one of them. So there's no intuitive way to cycle between 2 different modes. You just have to remember all of these different settings. So our last 3 modes are all strobe modes. So strobe warning, skip ahead a good 30 to 45 seconds. You get there with 4 clicks. And so first one is 100 lumens, will strobe for 29 hours. Second one is 1000 lumens. This is a 1 hertz strobe mode, so a little bit of a slower strobe mode. This is 3 hours and 35 minutes at that 1000 lumens. Our last one is a little bit faster, as you see. And this one is 1000 lumens, 10 hertz, 2 hours and 20 minutes. And so not going to use those strobe modes. I don't know why you can't just get to those in the general mode. Honestly, it's such a weird system for this advanced mode. It would have made a lot more sense to have 1 Firefly mode, again, 2.5 to 5 lumens. Our 3 main modes are great. 1 turbo, which is 1000 lumens that steps down to our other turbo, which is 350 lumens, and then just do a triple or quadruple click in the general mode for a single strobe mode. It's nice to have those settings, I guess, for people who really care about them. For me, I'm perfectly content with those main settings and think this is a really solid flashlight with just those main settings without ever going into this advanced mode. And so that's probably what I would do and what I'm going to continue to do with this flashlight. But obviously there are some people who are really going to care about that advanced mode and appreciate it. Now there's one last thing I kind of saved for the end on purpose for those that don't care about it, but a little bit controversial in my eyes. When I was getting the information for this flashlight on their website, the listing for this flashlight and all of their flashlights say European manufacturer plus own factory. And I was like, what does that mean? It sounds like it's a European made company. But what does that own factory mean? Why does it say that? I tried clicking on it because it was underlined, but didn't take me anywhere. But if you go over to the About Us section, it gives a lot of insight on this. And so for those that don't care, feel free to skip forward. But I'm going to read through some of that About Us section because I think it's pretty interesting. So I'm not going to read every single thing, but do have it pulled up on my phone for those who care. So what distinguishes them from other companies? There's that own factory again. Doesn't say anything else about it, but we'll see it a little bit later on. Designed especially for your needs, a team of scientists and engineers engaged in military and space industry, the best and tried and true components in the USA and Japan. So they're using US and Japanese made components. Particular attention to durability and technologies, not only to external design. Okay, all that's great. Gonna skip ahead a little bit to the how it's made. Got interested in LED lighting in 2007, and just like everyone have become its active users because of its efficiencies and convenience. Weird sentence there. But European and American companies present at that time on LED market offered expensive and conservative products, being behind the world progress for years, though reliable. From the other hand, Chinese manufacturers were producing beautiful and modern products at reasonable cost, but they were technologically crude at many aspects. As for them, the outer varnish and repeat sales are much more valuable than quality and durability for years. They usually copied the look of the product using domestic components and stayed the same characteristics as in the prototypes, but it was cheaper and nicer. That was a problem. We solved that problem without doubts. And the most interesting part has begun. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. Definitely seems to be throwing Chinese manufacturers under the bus. Again, really weirdly worded. Some of it definitely seems like this was either written by AI or maybe someone who English was not their first language, but definitely seems like they're against Chinese manufacturing. So, okay, great. We move on. We have gathered an international group of developers from Europe. It consists of, I'm actually not going to read all of that, but basically saying their developers, their R&D team are from Europe, not anywhere in specific, just Europe in general, which is a pretty big place with a lot of different countries. But we'll skip ahead a little bit more. For many years, we've accumulated experience and thoroughly investigated the real requirements of the end customers who wanted to obtain a reliable light. And so we'll skip to number 3. To create reliable lighting products, we completely refuse to apply Chinese components from the domestic market, i.e. cheap analogs of well-known brands. We decided to implement in our products only the best LEDs and cutting-edge electronics made in Japan and the USA to obtain the revolutionary and unprecedented results. So this is all sounding great. We've created our first tactical flashlight, Predator, from the ground up, and it has compiled in itself a plenty of innovative solutions in which the beginning many people even refuse to believe. Leaping ahead, we say that Chinese manufacturers haven't even been able to replicate our technologies using cheap components, so they've just copied its name without real implementing in the products. For instance, Firefly Technology, I'm assuming that's another flashlight company, I have no idea. Meanwhile, we started the hard test of Predator in severe conditions of torrid USA deserts and frost of North Europe. And this is where it gets interesting. Number 4, in 2009, we have made a strategically right decision to open an own factory in China. So basically, these are manufactured in China, and the only thing that differentiates them from anything other flashlight manufactured in China is that I guess they're European owned and researched and developed, their engineers are there, but they're making these in China. They own the factory, and so that's what differentiates them from just using an OEM that maybe copies designs and makes things cheaply, but it is still manufactured in China. And so this is just my opinion, but I find that to be incredibly misleading. I honestly probably wouldn't even have remembered to mention that it's made in China because I think most of my flashlights are made in China. It's just kind of a given that most flashlights are made in China. They're right up above with USA flashlights. A lot of them, like Maglite, for example, are behind on the technology. So if you want these greater outputs and greater technologies, you do have to go with the Chinese light or an ultra expensive light. I have those two. I haven't reviewed them on the channel yet, but in the $300 to $500 range that are USA made with these better outputs and unique programming and things like that. But most of the flashlights are made in China, and so I wouldn't have even called it out if they hadn't said European manufacturer and owned factories. It was definitely feels to me like they were trying to hide that these are made in China, which feels a little bit deceitful. Again, only my opinion. Obviously, I'm not allowed to say that they were intentionally trying to be deceitful, but if they wanted to differentiate from just made in China, they could have said that owned and engineered in Europe, manufactured in China with US and Japanese made components. That's a lot of words to just say made in China like every other Chinese made flashlight company, but at least does not feel deceitful. Let me know what you think down in the comments below of the flashlight, which I think is really, really solid, and also how you feel about that wording, if you feel like it's a little bit misleading and is something that should be changed on their website. For me, it's not a deal breaker. Honestly, I wouldn't have even known if they hadn't, again, pointed out. If it just said made in China, I would have scrolled right past it. But for me, a little bit misleading. But thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, joining the channel as a member. I'll make sure to link to somewhere you can purchase this down in the description. Not affiliated with them. Most likely, we'll just link directly to their website. But thanks again for watching.